Shri Radha Krishna Gopala Sam Radha Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Guru Dwarka Dham ki jai, Swami the Bhaktivinoda ki jai, all glories to them, all glories to them. Thank you very much. All glories to them.
So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, we are starting with this, we are continuing on with our morning walk conversations. Srila Prabhupada is taking us through his concept of Varnasrama College, which, as we will see, he explains as after the schooling, after the Gurukul or schooling, primary education, after 10, 12 years of age, then how can one train children and young adults in occupational training, which is probably land-based, sattvic-based, so that one can remain a devotee or a person of God consciousness throughout life. Those kind of occupations? How can one?
They're young, they're raised with religious principles.
Yeah.
Right.
But primary education is raised with religious principles and the basic education, and then the Varnasrama College is there to take it forward.
Yeah.
Instead of going through the middle school and the high school and then
You go through Varnashrama.
and then the college, yeah, it just goes through the straight, and it diverts
Specifically learning farming, what else?
all kinds of things. Srila Prabhupada is going to explain all of that
None.
in the next few weeks.
None.
We are
You
going
give
to
the
go.
whole lecture, the whole series on this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Vrindavan, in March Vrindavan, we are on the 12th of March morning walk. We just did half of it last week, and we are continuing on this week
You're halfway through the discourse.
of the first morning walk. We just did one.
You're halfway through the first morning walk.
Yeah.
And how many are there?
3.
3.
And there are letters on those days he was giving. And then we will go to other lectures after these morning walks. So, okay, let's carry on.
Their business will be to exploit works, what do you call? I do many devil's works. And the devil is Kamini Kanchan, woman and money. This is the devil. So if you remain idle, then you shall think of devil. See that everyone is engaged.
The natural audio has become less. As Srila Prabhupada may be moving his head, the mouth.
They weren't, yes.
They didn't have omnidirectional
Very good.
microphones at that time.
Right. And instruction in this connection is very important. Everyone should be trained as Vaishnava. At the same time, they should work in different position permanent. So if our men are not prepared, Lord Krishna Maharaj, for doing the plowing work, then what is the use of purchasing land? Huh? Then you have to engage laborer and spend 200 rupees per head at least, including salary and food, and the production is nil. In this way, there must be 10,000, 20,000 expenditure. Am I right or not? That you bring money somewhere from anywhere and let us spend lavishly. What kind of management? We should consider the money, after all, is earned with hard labor. So somebody will bring money with hard labor and another body will spend like irresponsible prince. That should be stopped. That is management. Especially is that the religion means to make a class of men simply idle.
So this is a very important point. This is what we are facing.
Yeah.
Where are the devotees ready to work on the land?
What you're really facing is that men and women today generally do not like to do that kind of labor.
Mm.
They're schooled in our school system. They're taught about computers. They can, make a great living in IT, or they want to be this or that. They sit in an office. Plowing a field is not something that's in their purview. They're not thinking about this. And if they do think about it, they're like, that's for somebody else that's a farmer. I'm not a farmer.
So this is the point Srila is making. Not everybody would do everyone's job. No?
Dharma.
So some people love to farm. Some people
Well,
don't.
let's say specifically about devotees.
So devotees
There's
love to
people who like
farm.
to farm, but they're not necessarily devotees. They're meat eaters, they're raising cattle, they're slaughtering, they're doing so many, I don't have to tell you, you know? So you have to start them from the beginning. You do, like, you gotta start them here, raise them here, teach them here, like, they have to be nurtured from the beginning about this is what life is. And if it's not like that, if they're started out in today's society, they're ruined already,
Mhm.
So the point is, how do you start given that environment? That's the trick. How do we begin to get people to come to raise their families and teach their kids that this is farm life and this is real life? That's the trick.
Well, what I have been understanding is that, like as you're saying, we have to start somewhere, but how can we start with children to do the farming?
You can't start with
Because
children, but the children
that-
have to be raised here
Sure.
for true Varnashram consciousness, and if it's going to flourish and over time really become like solid where it's ongoing and they stay in the game, they stay with it, they don't drift out, like
Well,
come in and
one
they
thing
work
is that,
for 6
yeah.
months and they're like, oh, this isn't for me. If they're raised with it, then, and that this is the best life, they learn to love it.
Mhm.
And then they're not going anywhere. But if you, like, again, they start on that side. So the point is, how do you begin to bring families to raise their kids here? That's the trick
Mhm.
in today's world,
That requires so I like to answer your points in two ways. One is the previous point, that how do we start?
Mhm.
You made very good point about children and raising, and let's cover that. But let me unshare this for some time so we can be visible much more. So, and I love to get some devotees' comments on the Zoom too. Whoever likes to pitch in, you can always unmute and start to comment.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah.
I didn't know
So,
that.
yes.
Sorry.
So now the first question of how to start on a farm, we like Srila Prabhupada was saying, if you get laborers, then what's the point? You spend so much money, and that's what I had to do. Because how can we started, my wife and I, we were doing it on our own, but then we realized we need more work, so we had to employ. And then I was thinking, oh, what the devotees, current devotee crop, as Srila Prabhupada himself is saying, are they ready? And Tamal Krishna is saying, no, they're not ready. So I was thinking, right now I have to employ. So what I can do is maybe I can employ young devotees locally and see who are vegetarians or who have this idea of being, who are favorable to God conscious living, simple life, and then we can probably influence them and help them understand God and keep God in the center of their farming. So basically, young people who would love to farm and then train them in God consciousness. That is one way, and we found some success in it.
Mhm.
And that is the problem was that, as you rightly pointed out, that once they are not raised like that, then it is very difficult. So what I found that so young people, when they come and they want to become a devotees or they want to explore devotion and farm, unless they go through the whole purification too, just like with chanting Hare Krishna and Sankirtan, and just like Srila Prabhupada had devotees do that in in temples, like Bhagavatam reading, and so heart gets purified. Which in a farm atmosphere where we were, or maybe it was my fault, it was not so easy. I wasn't oriented like that at the time. In New Paltz from 2016 to 2022. And then, so gradually what would happen is the young people who were trying to come and they were favorable, they would feel more desires. And they couldn't survive because they're thinking, oh, I can go to the city and earn 1.5 times more, 2 times more. My friends are there. I can go to these clubs, girlfriends and all. So it was, I realized the farm currently, if we go this route of engaging the young people into farming, or who are already inclined to farming, who are favorable and to become devotees of Lord, they need to also be fully engaged in God conscious purificatory activities, Sankirtan activities, chanting and hearing the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So once I realized that, then I started thinking, okay, so a farm needs to be, in these times at least, when we are starting off, of course, what you say, John Prabhu, about future children growing up and then some of the students being inclined, and we come to that. So that is another whole stream. So at this time, I realized that if the young people from locally, if we start engaging, then we also need to um, have a whole Krishna conscious preaching, like new devotee atmosphere. So the farms need to be near cities and really oriented towards Sankirtan and preaching to purify their hearts. So Jessica Nathaji, she made a comment, natural disposition of individual is different. So should the first step be to understand each one's natural disposition and capability before they are channeled to specific functions in a community life, whether it be farming or other work? Oh, this is Badri writing from Jessica Mataji's. Okay, great. Hare Krishna, Badri Prabhu. So, a very good point. So, we are talking about when we start farming, Hare Krishna. When we start farming, Hare Krishna, Jessica Mataji too. So, when we start the farm, let's say anywhere in the world, we have to start where whoever is interested to farm, which is generally the people who are already disposed towards farming, whom we can employ. All we could do is select the people who may be um, young and open-minded and favorable to Krishna consciousness. Like anywhere we would go and see who may take up to Krishna consciousness easily and become vegetarians, become more inclined towards simple life, they are honest. That's what I used to see, whether they are honest and simple people, first of all, um, and more inclined towards vegetarian life, which I was not very successful all the time in the US at least. So that is where one would have to start. Now, John Prabhu made a point that you start with children and then everyone would grow up in this atmosphere. Probably like everyone would be farmer. Well, in the Vedic system, it was that, of course, there is disposition, as you're saying, and some of the people, maybe 30% would like to farm, Now, maybe 50% like to farm. Like India, 60% of the population lives in the village. I don't know how many farm there or before, But Srila Prabhupada made the point many places in Bhagavatam also, he writes in lectures, he's writing that everyone should know how to farm. Doesn't mean that they farm as an occupation. He says everyone should know how to grow their own food. Even if it's a small plot, like 1/4 of an acre, we have a short climate here in North America. So maybe we could farm a little more, half an acre. A family, half acre is a lot for a family. It's a huge amount. And in that whole thing, all the vegetables at least, and root crops, we could produce for the year. People used to do that all the time. They would can and such and freeze or sun dry. So that is of course there, but now the occupation wise, someone who does that whole day, every day for the whole life, kind of, that is of course, as you are saying, we have to see among the children too. And it's actually farming is a lot of fun. Like
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah, well, if the kids are here, then you bring them out to the field with you, you bring them out and show, and the kids love it. We all like, as kids, playing in the dirt, let's say, right? It really, I mean, it's just natural for them to take to that.
Mhm.
And every day, the planting, they watch things grow, they become very attracted, because it's a wonderful thing that you're doing and that you're learning. I think a key piece as far as a society in this environment is Gurukul. You have to have, right? So they're also getting their education here. They're not going outside because, again, once they do, they become poisoned.
Mhm. Yeah.
The slaughterhouse school system, Prabhupada called it, and it's true. And what they're teaching them today is atrocious.
Mhm.
It's you can't. I don't know if you're familiar with the current
Yeah.
curriculum. It's poison. Yeah. So you have to have a separate society in every aspect. So the Gurukul, the kids are here, they stay here, they learn here.
At least the young age, when it is so impressionable. So who is ISKCON Ink Store? Is this 65% of the people in India are engaged in agriculture and allied activities directly, and about 55% of the workforce is engaged in agriculture and allied activities. That's a lot.
Yeah.
55%. So allied activities also traders, so Vaishyas also will be there. And so but so interesting to find out how many percentage of people in the world is inclined towards farming or Vaishya activities according to Krishna or according to the Vedic scriptures. So Shudra, how many percentage? Vaishya, how much percentage? Kshatriya, how much percentage? And Brahmana, is it 1%, 10%? What it is?
Well, it was a good point made that you have to engage people according to their propensities and their dharma, right?
Yeah.
So within the farm, you have people that will do business in these cottage industries. So for example, you go into the farm, out to the field, you pick the vegetables, you bring them in, you have a big commercial kitchen, you throw the vegetables in the pot, you have a cook that knows how to do that expertly. And then you jar them right there, you put labels on them, and you sell them to Whole Foods. You sell them farm to table soups. It would be so successful right now in today's world. Organic farm to table soups, but palatable, seasoned nicely, really cooked well. So you have people that have to bring it to market. You have to have business people, right? You have cooks, you have farmers, you have everybody in all the different propensities engaged in these activities. So it's not like, it's just farming and everybody gets left out. You have to engage with the world. And that's prasadam distribution. Naturally, you're going to offer everything before you jar it up and send it out. So what a great preaching opportunity. And that's just one example of things you can
do it.
I would love to do it, but it's like, how do you go from ground zero with no farmers to work the fields and do everything we're talking about to there, and even the cook in the kitchen needs help. And there's young kids that would go in and they would help cutting up the vegetables and washing the vegetables, and everybody could be engaged at the different stages of their lives and according to their propensities. And then as they get older, they find their way. I want to be on the business side. I like going out and dealing with Whole Foods or whatever their dharma, ends up developing into.
Any other comment? Let's carry on. I see. Around 50% of the world's population is engaged in agriculture. 2.6 billion people draw their livelihood mostly from agriculture. That's a
Do we
lot
know
of
what the
people.
percentages are in America? Because I think that's,
Much less.
yeah, that's what that's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
You know, in worldwide, yes, because, you know.
So it seems like there is a propensity, but the corporate culture has changed that propensity. It
Sure.
could be brought back.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
exactly the problem. we're
Many
dealing with.
people like we see in Manhattan, Brooklyn, they find, oh, how nice it would be to live a life like that. So and many people come to Hudson Valley too. So uh, there are propensities, and maybe they are suppressed in this current environment in the US. Let's carry on.
But the opiate, how is called? The opiate of the people. Right. Therefore, they are against religion. But actually, if you show that we are producing, we are managing, we are educating, then we can counteract the communist tendency. But they are saying that they are escaping, they say. They escape responsibility of worldly life and they are indulging in some religious. That is the tendency. Everywhere the government is complaining like that. Therefore, they do not want to increase the number of temples, increase the number of devotees. They do not want. Because they say these are a class of idle men. They cannot do anything. And they take to this religious life. That is the tendency. They're feeling like that. But if you show that you are actually doing something ideal, then they will appreciate. Make a small unit of community and show ideal life, not idle life, ideal life. Then this down in Bombay, they have refused because they are under the impression that these Europeans have come here under some sentiment, and what is the use? They have taken some plea and rejected our. Is there as we are making counter propaganda against Maya. The Maya is also very strong. She will also make propaganda against you, very strong. So unless you become very sincere devotee, then it will not be possible to conquer our Maya. It will succumb.
So this point Srila Prabhupada is making, this is what I had taken it as one of the aims of this community or Varnasrama College. He says part of this whole lecture of Varnasrama College concept is to make a small unit of community show ideal life.
Mhm.
He says in other places also, show a small ideal life. So that's the purpose, to show not that all of you come here, but to show so that one could also be inspired to do in their location according to the culture and the circumstances around them. It can't be imitated because every culture and every circumstance is different. So ideal life and implementation in many different ways.
Karanti. Mami uja prapadante, Maya me karanti. In India, the Brahmin class, they say, I am born in Brahmin family. Why shall I do this work? You see? And therefore, the whole society has gone to hell. In your country, still, they accept any kind of work, it doesn't matter. And here, in India, if he happens to be a Brahmin, he'll not take any kind of work. Brahmins, just like plowing, he'll not agree. Therefore, so much land. The Kshatriya is thinking I'm Kshatriya. The Brahmin is thinking I'm Brahmin. The land is lying fallow. There is no production. He'll go to the office and fight with the pen as a Kshatriya. And instead of studying Vedas, he'll study the rules and regulations given by the office. But he'll not come to plow. That's the scarcity of food. He'll go to a mill to work as an ordinary laborer. He'll not come. So much land, you see, lying unutilized. And they're crying for grain. Why? The same example I was citing that in New York City, the whole city is full of dirty things, garbage, for want of cleaner. And you go to the Central Park, you'll find so many hippies are lying down, idle.
Unemployment.
Not employment, they not work. That means mismanagement. Why they should remain? Why they should remain without any employment? The government is not doing that.
They do not feel inspired.
Huh?
They do not feel inspired. No one has desire.
That means mismanagement. You had no desire to take to Krishna consciousness, but you have been taken to it by somewhere or other. That is management. That is management.
You're actually right.
So I have I have thought about this a lot, this point of Srila Prabhupada is making, that people are like, because of this, this is like a entitlement culture. So many people, like almost 50% of people are on welfare in the US. Now Social Security, I'm including in that.
What is
Of
the
course,
percentage?
people are almost 50%.
50%.
So Social Security, other welfare, so many things. And single women, they're very tough situation. They have to be on welfare. But there are people who, young-bodied, they can work, but they are also, the whole mindset is, I can get from the government, I can get this, I can get this, I can get from there. The people don't have that tendency. So I tested it out. Like many people used to say, we were exploited, or we are being exploited. We don't have money, or our community doesn't have money, or this happened to us in the past. So that's why we need to be supported. And it is the duty of the government now to support us. But I offered, okay, why don't you come? I'll give you 1 acre, half an acre, work and make your money. I didn't find any takers. It's very tough the mindset itself is the problem. Like
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada is saying,
Yeah.
that the interest is not generated. And then government supports it by people who can't work or have a little bit issues, give them some money.
Well, and whatever it was when he was here, it's probably 10 times worse now.
Yeah.
After COVID and all these things, the entitlement mindset, like you're saying, has gone up dramatically.
Yeah.
Because they stuck people at home, they were sending them checks for nothing, they were making twice as much as they were when they were working for doing nothing. And now they're like, well, I don't want to go back to work. It's bad.
Yeah. How is it in Japan, Vinayak Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Is that the same? Like so many people, young people don't want to work when he comes around, he may.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, it's the same thing here also. Here we have a lot of mental diseases and people about depression, trauma, and all this, and lot of old people. So there are many people who are taking this Seikatsu Hogo or this welfare kind of thing. So it's pretty much every developed country is like that. There are people who are old, a little bit kind of little bit disease, or who are having some mental problems or some problems in. Yeah, but I don't see here the entitlement for family problems. If some single woman and like that, that entitlement is not there as far as I know.
Mhm.
But for diseases and old age, bodily weakness, kind of, for that there is entitlement. And sometimes it's also the thing if the economy goes down very drastically, then everybody gets money. So just like it's called helicopter money in economic terms. So just like in COVID times, everybody got money to sustain themselves like that. And there is also slightly agitation about that among young people here that we are working and this welfare seekers just to sit and enjoy, do nothing. And there are also homelessness here, like people who are well to do, they just go and become homeless because they don't want to work.
Mhm.
And they get lot of money, food and everything when they become homeless. Many NGOs are there who work for them. So they don't feel any necessity to work.
Mhm. I see. Very interesting to know parallels in the even though different cultures. So the Vedic system is that the grihasthas, the people who are earning money, not the brahmachari, not the vanaprastha who are retired, or the sannyasis, or even the brahmanas, the people who are working and have businesses, they need to support everybody who can't. It's like it's not now the concept is the nuclear family alone, little bit parents, little bit cousins, little, and what to speak of the society, like a responsibility that I also need to what I'm doing earning is to serve the society, people who are, as you mentioned, who are sick, elderly. Of course, the government duty and the people's duty to make sure they don't remain sick, which are preventable sicknesses, not like accidents and such, which I mean, one has to overhaul the whole society to be um, less sick. But even if people are sick now, um, a person who is productive, one needs to know, okay, I'm serving every section. I have to set aside some money for that. Of course, government takes the money and then utilizes it. Mismanagement is different, but the mindset I'm saying while working, you know. Well,
Yeah, like some diseases are there, like here, this trauma problem is there, which prevents people to remain in society or work together with a team or in an office. Because sometimes if they are bullied in childhood or in some company, then they get a lifelong trauma. So many times they don't. The society is quite something which don't very much appreciates a person who is not successful in his life like that. For them, because one of my students, he was having this kind of trauma. He wanted to work, like he did some kind of trading and some part-time jobs whenever his mental condition was good. But after it became worse, then he stopped doing. Similarly, one more of our student, she was also having this kind of problem, but slowly, when she started chanting and everything, she was able to overcome those things, and she can go work every day.
Mhm.
So like here, work is available everywhere. Like
Mhm.
anybody who wants work, for them, lot of jobs and everything is there. So I think these people are not very much having this entitled mindset, but there is a section who is having this kind of lazy mindset. Like,
Any comment? Anyone else?
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
please, yes. Jessica.
I'm just thinking sort of, I mean, this is not a, this is what Srila Prabhupada was doing from what I understand, and what you all have done also, even at Gopal Farm or other times. But the culture now and the vibration that we are in, this Maya, the way this Maya is functioning here, uniquely in the US and in this time period, and also with the effects of all of the cell phone, internet, social media, that vibration is so strong that even to overpower that, in addition to all the things that we're all talking about, there's that component and all of the toxins that people are putting in to their bodies.
Mhm.
So attracting young people or any people to a lifestyle like this, or even to devotional service one day of a month, it seems to me the only way is what you all have been doing and saying, which is chanting, meditation, creating even a small group of people doing that,
Mhm.
let's say on your farm or even in my house, to create this counter force
Mhm.
or sort of purifying force slowly that can even affect the community. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the people around Sprout Creek Farm, after you all have done your kirtan, those people may be sensing some change in their family life. Of course, they won't know what has happened. But my point was just that the more people, even if they trickle through a place like Sprout Creek Farm, let's say, that vibrational shift would attract them. And then slowly they can come and have prasadam. Then maybe slowly they can do some small farming. But it takes some time to like seed that new reality. For us, it feels like a lifetime. Of course, it's lifetimes, but I was just going back to what you and Brother John were saying about, raising the young children. But first we have to just get even the adults on board who are, and the children who are becoming adults, like it'll be their children
Mhm.
if we have to start like a Gokul type society now,
Mhm.
or whatever that looks like. But through this kirtan, through being exposed to that, I can think of no other way, because even having children now, I find that nothing, as much as I try with my ego to influence the kids or to educate or make some family changes here, the only way is like that inside out method, by appealing and surrendering to God and trying to do like chanting or meditation on the Lord, and then having that effect change. So from that force, which I guess is obvious, but to keep on reminding people to do that and to have that as a part of your daily life is, you need that. You need some elders or some community to keep reminding you to go back to that practice. Otherwise, it becomes so overwhelming that you may just give up and say, okay, this is all too strong.
Mhm.
What will be, will be. So anyway, those are just the thoughts I was having.
No, they're really good
Excellent.
thoughts, yeah, and it's true what you're saying. It's absolutely true. So Krishna consciousness has to be the core of what you're doing. And purity is the force. So that's what does eventually create everything else that you want to do for Varnashram Dharma Society and farming. So let me add this whole concept that Nimai and I myself have talked about extensively. And I think, as far as you have to have outreach programs, right? That's the key. And the outreach programs have to be Krishna conscious. So the idea was that we would have these food trucks, prasadam trucks, and we would do food that is appealing to the students, like veggie burgers, chicken cheesesteaks that are vegetarian, fish sandwiches that are vegetarian. I did this work in Philadelphia. We had a Govinda's restaurant for many years. We were the best restaurant in Philadelphia and all this stuff. Anyway, I saw the result of that we had line out the door all day long. So it's very attractive. So a couple things happen with that. So if you have this truck, people come for the food, prasadam, right, on top of it. And right next to that, you have kirtan and maybe another bus like the Radha Damodar did back in the day, where there's an altar and you're sitting having kirtan. So they come for the food, they hear the kirtan, and they're like, what are you doing? And then you explain the philosophy. And then they take a book. And then they gradually start to become attracted. And then you invite them to the restaurant at the farm. And then you have programs on Sunday. And you start bringing these students that are very fertile and looking for something. What am I going to do with my life, right? And start introducing them to this other way of living that is outside of the nonsensical society. And without that contrast, you really can't attract anyone. But you have to have the outreach. You have to have a way to capture them and bring them in and let them start to begin to see what you're doing. And the holy name will naturally attract them, as we all know. It awakens that, dormant love for Krishna in the heart. But this interacting with society, the outreach leg of everything we do is extremely important. I helped manage the New York City Harinam Ashram with Ram Roy from the very beginning of that program. That was the most successful program I've ever been a part of. I mean, we started with 6 young boys, and Ram Roy and myself and Abhi Ram. I can tell you in 2.5 years, we had 35 devotees in that ashram. We were bursting at the seams. We had people sleeping on the deck on the 3rd floor in the summertime, and we bought the building next door because we had a bunch of grihastas that were so favorable. They'd come every day to the kirtan, right? And we needed a place for them. So we were going to have a grihasta ashram. We were going to break the wall through downstairs, have an altar and deities downstairs, morning programs every day, and the brahmacharis on the other side. So, and that was because we went out and chanted every day, just sat there and let people pass by, like in a busy area in Union Square Park. And one by one, they'd come by and they'd say, wow, what are you guys doing? And naturally, your book distributors are there. They're listening to the kirtan. They're hearing the holy name. Somebody's explaining the philosophy. They take the book, they go home and they read a little bit. Then they pass by the next time and they're like, I think this is really cool what you guys are doing. Can I sit and chant with you? Sure. Sit and chant with us. Next week goes by. Well, where do you guys live? What do you do? How do you live? What are you really up to? Can I come and see? So you say, sure, come to the ashram. Let me show you what we're doing. And then next thing you know, they're asking to stay a weekend. And they stay a weekend and they love the environment with the devotees and the prasadam and the morning programs and everything else. And the next thing you know, they're moving in full time and they go from having big bush haircuts, they shave up. And the next thing you know, they're devotees and they're distributing books with us. Like from ground zero, 6 men to 35 devotees in literally 2.5 years. And now they've broken a faction off. Went to Atlanta, a lot of those young boys. They opened up a whole nother preaching thing. One of them is the biggest book distributors in the world. He broke all the records from that. you know? Now, if you have a farm community, our concept back then was we were actively looking for farms. And the concept would be, you know, like you're in the trenches, you're in New York City, you're in the belly of the beast, you're talking the karmis, preaching every day, chanting. But, you know, you cycle up to the farm and you kind of rejuvenate for a week or so, you know, just really get deep into your own spiritual practice to rejuvenate and strengthen yourself spiritually. And then you go back. So that was the idea for the devotees in the city. And also the idea was that the farm would support the boga for the, you know, the organic boga that was being grown to the devotees. And then all these cottage industries that we were talking about as well, to be able to interact with the world. It's prasadam distribution, and you have income, because in today's world, you have to have money. I mean, it's going to take, I think, some real time before you could separate completely and not have to need money in a separate society. So it has to work hand in hand. And you're right. Purity is the force. Preaching is the method. If we stay focused on that and we tie it in with the Varnashram Dharma, then I think it could be successful on both fronts.
Very good exposition, Prabhu. That's what our thought process have become, that the farm community can't be an isolated farm community. It needs to be right there with people, centered around the chanting of the holy name, like Jessica Mataji, you said, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Kevalam. It's extremely important. So now we are almost finishing for the day, but anyone else has any other points to make or discuss? We can then carry on from I think we are trying to do it Wednesday and Sunday, this Varnasrama College series. 7 a.m. New York Eastern Standard Time. Yes, Prabhu. Leo Prabhu. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
I'm not qualified for any of this. Just a couple things that I learned in the Atlanta temple. They have a big Food for Lives organization, and I'm guessing they probably accept donation, but the whole thing is definitely prasadam distribution. And I've seen they're very subtle. They're very subtle. They do everything very layman's, not so much, very much, I guess, with not secular. I don't want to say they're secular, but they give little notes of Krishna consciousness, not too much full, because it could like throw people off. Like, for example, they would say, oh, we will have morning poetry. Morning poetry would be Mangalarti, in a sense, where, like songs and stuff like that. And then, of course, other things I noticed, they have, it's a complex blueprint they have, where I'm seeing that they have also very community based, and as well, they have retreats. So they have different type of things where they actually have different types of yoga. Another thing, they also put, instead of mantra meditation, they will put guided meditation. So it's interesting. The reason why I've associated with them is because I was interested in prasadam distribution here in Alabama. Possibly do some type of service like that here. And so to start off, it could be they just telling me something simple. It's just as starting a WhatsApp group. And they get volunteers over there, and like I joined their WhatsApp group for Food for Lives, and they're constantly like getting volunteers, and I guess it's based off definitely the university, but they have like a vibrant youth. Like when I went to the Kirtan Mela there, it was mostly young people doing the Kirtan. And I'm telling you, like, very good Kirtan people, kids. I don't mean like kids, I mean like maybe in their 20s. So I guess it will be that type of attraction. I don't know. That's just something that I've seen here, and I don't know if that could possibly work over there. So it would be nice, yeah, of course, as Bhakta John was kindly describing. It's just something that I've seen over here, because in this day and age, it throws off people if you even like state something about God, or if you state, I don't know. But if you could, like, do in the most layman terms, I guess, not to be deceitful or anything. It's just that's just something that I feel with people. Like over there in your farm, I'm sure you could definitely get a yoga instructor, and that could be one of the main attractions there. Just things like that. I was just thinking about as the discussion was going on.
Yeah, different methods of bridge preaching, and this is kind of what the topic is, right? Food trucks with kirtan, yoga, studio, bringing them in, guided meditations along with that. Yoga is a lot of the things that are happening today, even in New York City, the Bhakti Center and everything else. I think for me personally, I mean, I think is an overarching, very, very important point that if we all concentrate mainly on how do we reach and really try to save the fallen conditioned souls and give them Krishna, that Krishna will help us in all the endeavors. But that has to be the main driving desire, because that's what Srila Prabhupada wanted. That's what he was about. That's what his whole life was dedicated to. That's why he came to the West, right? So if our heart is in that place that we just really understand how they're suffering, we want to reach them and help them and give them Krishna and change the trajectory of their existence for forever, and really get them to on a path back home, then Krishna will help us with everything else. It's not just about the this or the that or the yoga or the food, or the business. It's about your intention. And if the intention is there, I think Krishna will step in and help you tremendously on whatever you're doing.
I think we are going to end now, but just wanted to say Srila Prabhupada is present now and he would like us to do this now. He wanted then and he wants it now. Okay, thank you very much for attending and going through what Srila Prabhupada is talking about. There's so many things to unpack, and it's great to have this discussion. And I wish we can continue to do that week after week. Wednesday, 7 a.m. we are going to meet again on this, and we'll continue on this on the same morning walk.
Yeah, if anyone we can invite too, if everybody can.
Yeah, sure. If you like to invite others whom you feel may be interested to figure out, not just here in New York, we are trying to do this Varnasrama College. So all these ideas, different people have to come and execute whatever they like to, but in other places too. Vinayak Prabhu is thinking of doing the same thing near Tokyo someplace. And I'm sure other places. Leo is thinking of doing in Alabama. Okay, we'll finish here. Hare Krishna. All goes to Srila Prabhupada.